Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you all here. I'm Casey with Super Dispatch, and today we're talking about something that's top of mind for everyone in this industry, but especially our shippers and brokers. We're chatting about fraud and auto transport and what we are doing about it with our new product, SuperProtect. So, to get us started, without further ado, I'm going to welcome our CPO, Dave.
Great. Thank you so much, Casey. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the threat of fraud in auto transport and actually what's happening and how to protect your team. I'll cover that at the beginning. Then we'll get into what I think most of you are really here to hear about is SuperProtect, which is our new real-time monitoring system that's built into our platform. And we'll actually give you a demo of that Joanna will walk you through. And then we'll, towards the end, have our customer panel and they'll talk about how they've been dealing with fraud firsthand and how they've been using SuperProtect. And there's also a live Q&A at the end. One thing to remember is that you can drop your questions into the Q&A box at any time. Please don't wait till the end, and we'll get to as many as you as we can. So first off, let's talk about who is going to be showing today. We'll start with Joanna. She's the product manager who's been building SuperProtect from day one. We'll also have our panelists, as I mentioned, Michael, Luke, and Jack, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So with that, let's jump in. Uh, Fraud in transport isn't isolated incidents; it's an operational reality. You've either been targeted or you know someone who has, and unfortunately, it's organized, it's fast moving, and it's increasingly sophisticated. One mistake can be devastating to a company, right? A stolen vehicle, double brokering load. You guys all know what's going on. And we see this across millions and millions of vehicles. And that's actually what we believe is our edge. Um, so today we're going to share with you that there's three things that I will cover. There's the two fraud patterns that we're tracking, what real attacks actually look like, and five things that every team can start doing right now. So for the two categories that we watch closely, it's double brokering and vehicle theft. And while those are two different patterns, they're often chained together. So one compromised account will book a load, get double brokered, and then that ends up with a stolen vehicle. So for double brokering, we have like a couple lines of defense. So first off is that we have functionality called Report a Carrier tool that provides feedback so that our fraud team can actually investigate and look for new patterns as well as reprimand folks that are not behaving the way they're supposed to. Second is we're planning to revamp actually our rating systems and our carrier profiles to help everybody get a fuller picture of who you're working with so you can make better, smarter decisions. Ultimately, the goal with this side of our platform and our technology is really more transparency for you so that you can just make better decisions based on information that's readily available to you. We're not in the business of saying who's good or who's bad or who you should work with. We really want to make sure that you can have all the information you need to make the best decisions possible for your business. Um, Vehicle theft, which is our main topic today, and the reason why SuperProtect exists, is really about real-time fraud signals that are built into the workflow that you're already using. And again, here is using those real-time signals to help spot fraud and theft before it actually happens. So, what any temp looks like, let's recognize this. Excuse me. Let's what attempts actually look like in the wild is what your first line defense is actually about, right? Is identifying those things before they happen versus trying to deal with them after they happen. So that's why we've actually seen today is these five patterns. First off is phishing emails, which is mismatched senders, generic greetings, rush tones, things that you're probably very familiar with from a personal standpoint. Um, they're things that you would have seen maybe in your personal life, but now targeted towards you in moving vehicles. The second one is fake load offers. These are tempting enough, right? That maybe the price is really good, but there's also a lot of pressure to move fast, confirm things, call a special number that they've texted you or sent you, things like that. The third thing we've seen a lot is malicious links in text. So like a link that looks right, ask you to do like some kind of verification task for a load, where it's a link to a website maybe that's not familiar. That's something you definitely don't want to click. Another thing we've seen very commonly is account change scams. So somebody will take a vetted and verified account and then actually make changes to it in order to take it over and then use that as a way to get in. And then the third thing is actually impersonation. So they'll pose as somebody as us or FMCSA, and then try to take over that way. So they look like there's someone that that is a good known vendor, but it actually isn't. It's someone trying to take over and look like that person. So the main thing that you can think about with all five of these is that they're counting on to you to be under pressure to move fast, and to not really think about what you're looking at. So the big thing to take away from it is to slow down and verify what you're dealing with. Um, so with that, let's take a look at a real phishing attempt to try to make this a bit more concrete for you. There's three things. There's a few things here to notice. First off, the top here, that address is obviously very close to Super Dispatch. It has our name in it, but you can see it's not superdispatch.com. It's superdispatch-carriers.net. So that's not us, obviously. So it's close enough, but something you can distinguish. The second piece within the body of the email, you'll notice that it's quite pushy tone. There's a time sensitiveness to it, saying you have to do this or you're going to lose it. So they're again trying to get you to go quickly and not paying attention. And then oftentimes too, like you'll see with like either the footer or here with the branding, it's close but not quite right. So those are types of things that you can take a look at. So it feels, feels familiar, but it's not the same thing. And then when you actually, if you were to click through, say on that button there to go and look at the actual websites, you'd see a couple things. If we, so first off, this is our real site here with the blue, and this is an example of a fake site. Again, look at you can look at the kind of the branding's not quite right, the colors are not quite right. You can see the styling's a little messy, but close enough if you're not paying attention. And then if you actually then look at the actual URLs here, which is the top in your browser, you can actually click into them. A lot of them suppress them now, so one thing you can do is you can actually click in there and then look at it and interrogate it a bit more yourself. You'll see with our real one, right, superdispatch.com. With this fake one, it's sdispatch-damage.com. So again, not the real Super Dispatch. Again, something you can look at. So before you even go any further, if you happen to click through, just, and you notice this is a problem, then stop, right? And don't put any more information in. That's what they're counting on you doing, is to keep going. So how do you protect yourself? As we talked about a lot, slow down. Urgency is their main tool that they use and try to trick you. Confirm through second channels. We'll see a lot of times too with like sending a specific text message. We'll say, call this number, use this email address. Like check that against what information you know is known to be good. Have a very good, consistent physical handoff process and inspection process. So that's a case accountability, that so people know that they're on the hook to make sure that this is the right person that they're working with. Use and trust your platforms. There's lots of verification tools, of course, built into Super Dispatch. Use those tools. There's information that you can use to help make better decisions. And finally, make sure you train everybody on your team, right? While you may be very good at checking all these things, it only takes one person within your organization to make a quick decision that could be very challenging for you and make a good day into a very bad day. So make sure everyone's trained and knows to look for those things. All it takes is that one click. And with that, we'll have Joanna now talk a bit more specifically about Super Protect.
Thank you, Dave. So I'm Joanna. I'm the product manager that owns SuperProtect. I'm super excited to show it to you today. I will start by talking about the problem we identified, how we are solving it today, and also our plans for the future. So starting with the problem, we identified two main issues with traditional carrier vetting. The first one is that it's actually disconnected from your daily workflows. The tools that you usually use for carrier vetting, they live outside of your workflows or they require integrations. And the second issue that we identified is that the data used for vetting is usually incomplete or static. So we created SuperProtect to address both of these issues. SuperProtect is pretty much a completely integrated fraud risk alert system. Everything will be inside Super Dispatch. You never will have to leave your workflow. And then it also provides this proactive fraud detection that uses proprietary data. So it uses a combination of external data sources from places like FMCSA and internal data as well. We believe that this is really important for you to be able to do easy vetting and carrier monitoring daily, because our internal data is something that only we have. The external data is something that fraudsters can easily access. They know what is being tracked, what is not being tracked, and internal data is something that is unique, and now you'll have access to it via SuperProtect. So how does it show up in product? So as I mentioned, SuperProtect is intended to be completely integrated within your workflow. So you'll see it in three main moments in your workflows. When you are reviewing load requests from carriers, when you are sending direct offers to carriers, and while you are viewing a carrier profile. Whenever you see SuperProtect, you will also see whether a carrier is flagged, the associated risk level, and also some context on why this alert was triggered. You will never see an alert that just says passed or failed. You will have some context so that you can dig deeper and do a complete vetting on your own. And instead of just describing it, I will do a little demo so that you actually see how it looks like in product. You'll see the real-time alerts. So here we are on SuperTMS. Here I have all my loads. If I will go to my requests, so I have 4 carrier requests for this first load. If I open, I'll see, okay, this first carrier is verified, but SuperProtect label says this carrier is failed. Second one, same, verified, but SuperProtect is failed. And then the third one, we see review recommended. If we click view, the carrier profile opens with the SuperProtect drawer immediately opening as well. I can see that this carrier passed 6 out of 8 checks for SuperProtect. In the first section, I see the internal checks. I see some data for some suspicious changes on the carrier account, phone number change, some extra changes in this case, email change as well. We can see the old value, the updated value, when that happens, so that you can dig deeper if you want to. You will see some checks for marketplace activity. In this case, here there is a high number of pending requests considering the drivers the carrier has. This carrier has been blocklisted by 5 shippers, not a lot of history with Super, accepted loads feasibility okay, all FMCSA flags seem to be passed, registration, authority, all the compliance flags seem to be passed in this case. So if I want, I could do more vetting, or I can go and look for another carrier. Also, if I send a direct offer, if I search for a carrier, so let's select this one. He's verified, but SuperProtect shows he's a failed. So if I click on view, it will also open the carrier profile. SuperProtect drawer always opens again. This carrier also passed 6 out of 8 checks, but he's on the risky side. Carrier account changes were also made. Phone number, email, some other changes. Marketplace activity also shows some checks that didn't pass, high number of pending requests, more shippers blocklisted in this case recently, not a lot of history again with Super, and the remaining checks seem to all be passed. Another thing that you will notice on Shipper TMS is the SuperProtect tab. There is a SuperProtect tab where you'll be able to see all your monitored carriers. If you have monitored carriers, you'll receive email alerts if the risk level changes. If the risk level increases, you'll be able to see if they have active loads with you, the status, the SuperProtect status in this case. Also, you'll be able to filter by the status, passed, review recommended, failed. We'll have an icon for attention if you have some carriers that are on the failed status. And if you don't have active loads with the carrier, you can always remove them from monitoring. Another thing that I would like to show you is we have a notification for SuperProtect. So by default, as I mentioned, all monitored carriers, if the risk level increases, you'll receive an email alert that is on by default. But on your notification section in Shipper TMS, you can disable that easily by clicking here. You'll only receive email alerts for those that have active loads with you. Also on the subscription details, SuperProtect works by tiers, the subscription. Here you'll be able to see in which tier you are, how much you are paying, how much you will pay for overages if you exceed your current tier. and where you are, how many carriers you can monitor per month within your tier, and where you are. That's pretty much what we offer with SuperProtect today. So you just saw what we offer today, and now I would like to talk about what we want to offer in the future, because this will become a broader experience for shippers and also for carriers. So today, as you saw, we offer the fraud prevention. We use our internal data and external data to prevent that. That is available. Next, we want to focus on carrier onboarding. We know that carrier onboarding is a repetitive and sometimes manual process that every shipper has to do. We know that some of you use some third-party tools, some spreadsheets, some emails to communicate with carriers. What we want to do is to provide everything in product, automated with as little friction as possible. It will be available for trial in Q3 and general availability in Q4. After carrier onboarding, we want to focus on insurance monitoring. We know that insurance monitoring is also an issue for our shippers to monitor the carrier's insurance. We know that accidents happen, and when that happens, there are common questions about insurance, if the COI was valid, if the driver was listed on the insurance. So we want to build the tool so that you can vet insurance yourself within Super Dispatch as well. That will be available in the first half of 2027. And lastly, we want to provide tools so that you can ensure service quality as well. So we know that there are a lot of amazing carriers out there that they follow all the rules, they pick up and deliver on time. And we know you have your own performance requirements. So we want to provide that information to you so that you can easily vet carriers working with you. Another thing we want to do is, we know that carriers need protection as well. There are some common things that we hear from carriers. There are brokers that don't pay, MC numbers that get hijacked, accounts that get compromised. So we know that carriers need protection as well. So we want to build that same level of protection for carriers as well. One thing that I would like to mention is that all of this SuperProtect has been built in partnership with customers, and that has been super helpful. And that will continue to happen. So if you want to participate in a trial, please let us know. And talking about customers, let's hear from some of the customers that already have access to SuperProtect. We cannot hear you, Casey.
It'd be helpful if I put myself off mute. Thank you, Joanna. We're going to welcome our panel. We're super excited to talk to everyone today. We're going to have them introduce themselves and their company and their background in auto transport. So first, let's start with Jack.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Jack. I am the CEO of HIYAAKS Inc. I've been in the auto industry for about 15 years, and I've been shipping cars for probably close to the last 8, 3.5 of which have been for myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. How about you, Michael?
Hi. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Michael Bejda. I'm the founder of Above Auto Transport. I've been in the transportation industry for a little over several years. I'm obviously excited to see how much the industry's evolved, right? Because now we have all these extra advancements. Above Auto, we specialize in primarily transporting for commercial vehicles, working with manufacturers, dealerships, enterprise customers. So we've obviously always taken the carrier vetting process very seriously. So that's why we're very excited to be able to sit down here with you guys and talk about SuperProtect.
Awesome. Thank you. Luke?
Hello, everybody. My name's Luke. We started the shipping my car brokerage about 5 years ago. We primarily been in the dealership space before that, but we handle my dealership as well as other dealer groups, mainly dealing with strictly dealers and their customers for their transportation needs.
Great. Thank you. I know fraud has been obviously big in the industry for a while and it continues to evolve. So I'd love to hear more about your experience with looking out for fraud, what you're looking for, especially since I think each of you serve slightly different customers. So what does that look for like on your end, Jack?
So it's actually very interesting because once I got access to SuperProtect, it actually it made me reconsider a lot of things that I was looking at originally, and it also gave me a new tool that I was able to then say, hey, I've been using these guys for a long time and they're actually pretty good, or I've used these guys a lot and now I just realized they share an address with 20 other carriers, maybe this is some sort of like a super ego type deal where it's some sort of ghost carriers and the drivers are not on the insurance, and it really makes you think twice.
Yeah, that's it's so wild how fast that evolves for everybody. Michael, how about you?
I've noticed the biggest factor being, we work with a lot of different carriers in a lot of different states, so we have to have a pretty big network there. And there's a lot of carriers that we'll work with on a consistent basis and everything will be great. Or there's carriers that we've worked with at the beginning of the year and then we haven't heard from them for a while. And then their reputation with us internally was always a positive one. But then they'll pop up on our Super Protect. And then you notice that their rating is now a 4 out of 8. And traditionally, right, we would have looked at them and we would have been like, oh, okay, great. We've worked with them many times, right? We'd still go through our whole carrier vetting process, but now it spotlights it right away where now you have to investigate into that carrier. So there's these things that normally wouldn't be highlighted that are now being highlighted because of Super Protect, which is very, very helpful.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. How about you, Luke?
And we deal with a lot of high target, you know, vehicles that would want to get stolen. We've already had in a couple months a couple cases where we quickly saw that somebody's email and phone numbers changed or names changed within like a day or two. So clearly, like their account was taken. And then, I mean, another thing I like is when you can see, a high number of other shippers recently blocked that carrier. That's kind of like an indication of like, if you have 4 or 5 other people that don't want these people to even see your loads, maybe that's something to
Yeah.
take into consideration.
Yeah, that's interesting how much of that data is like being flagged now, but I'm curious about before Super Protect, how are you guys vetting that or how are you keeping an eye out on those number changes or those ratings? Even like Michael, you mentioned carriers that you would have previously thought were reliable.
Yeah. I mean, we always had a very strong carrier vetting process. So that's one part that we had. More than anything, the benefit that we've seen from Super Protect is it gives you an instantaneous snapshot of the overall standing of that carrier, right? So for us, still prior to that, what we would do is we'd have a carrier request a load. We'd verify them internally with our system, right, based on previous transports that we had done. We'd then look at multiple different platforms, see their overall ratings and standings on those platforms. We'd verify insurance, right? And that whole entire process is very time intensive. And so
Mm,
we would have to do that with every single carrier before we'd actually go ahead and send the load. Now, instead of my team having to sit here and verify every single carrier just to come to the conclusion that, hey, company information's changed. Something's a little bit sketchy about them, right? They've gotten 6 negative reviews within the last month. Now all of a sudden, the rating will show up and it's a 5 out of 10, and you realize they've been blocklisted by 6 companies. There's been unusual activity. So those several minutes that we would spend on every single carrier adds up when you're talking about hundreds of carriers. So it just saved our team a lot of time with the whole carrier vetting process.
yeah, I'd imagine. Jack, how about you guys?
So I think it just, just to echo what everybody else was saying, one of the biggest things about it is that, every once in a while, and I'm sure all of us have seen this, is you'll get some sort of either a time critical load or a vehicle that's relatively expensive, and you're trying to move it and keep the customer happy. You're trying to move it with speed, and you're also trying to make sure that nothing happens to it, because I myself also work with some very, very high end vehicles. And what happens is you put the load out, and usually you're paying the right amount of money if you know what you're doing. And the first thing that happens is you'll get 2 or 3 requests right away, and all of a sudden you'll see and will automatically show you, hey, these people are not passing the muster, and I wouldn't even give them a second glance. Whereas if somebody has, let's say, is passing 7 or 6 out of the 8 or 9 fields that are available, I would then go ahead and do a deeper dive. But if you're going to show up, and you're going to show up as like, that you're not even passing, that your insurance is expiring and your information just changed 3 days ago and all that stuff, and you're trying to take this Ferrari from me, I'm not even going to pay
Mm,
you any mind. So that then goes ahead, and it saves me that extra like Michael was saying, that extra 10 minutes of having to go and look up the company and go to, another platform and then look up the insurance, then go to SaferWeb and look up their inspection history. It just completely eliminates the bad actors right off the bat, which number one, it allows us to feel a little bit more safe and secure when we actually do finally choose that carrier because we have more tools at our disposal that are showing us the actual rating of the carrier. Because it's very easy nowadays for anybody to just sign up with the FMCSA as a carrier and get authority. Like the
Yeah.
just because the FMCSA gives a company authority doesn't mean that they're operating with any type of integrity. And it's just something that we've seen over the last, I want to say year, it's been the worst that it's ever been. So this tool really helps you just eliminate those fraudsters in the first, let's say, 10 seconds. Like, oh, they don't pass. I'm not even going to click it to open it to see why they don't if they only have three or four. It's just an automatic decline and they go right on the block list.
Yeah. Yeah. That also must, I mean, that's such a long process and a laborious process. Sounds like for all you guys, but that must also save you so much time. Especially like you mentioned a Ferrari, those high value vehicles are obviously a higher target. So having that for your customers also must be a better customer experience too. So that's great to hear. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think time, with the AI world of everything, there's the other super agent stuff coming, but like it's just the time that it saves. Then also, as Michael was saying, the way that we can keep track of the people that we are comfortable with. Obviously, we think they're great, but then, something happens and we don't know, but like it puts that flag in front of us. I mean, I think that's super helpful. Um, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
the one thing is I will say, like there are ones that I use and we use all the time that, do fail, so it's like don't always immediately, dig into it and look why. Sometimes it's just they just changed the address and it says road instead of RD or something like that. Um, it's obviously not perfect, but it's, certainly extremely helpful.
So that's actually a really interesting point. So how does that change your vetting when you know, like when you're looking at the alerts for Super Protect, what are you being like trusting immediately, or what are you maybe like getting more context for to see how you feel about it and if it feels reliable?
I mean, like the big red flags are always like, oh, the addresses, phone numbers, stuff like that, but like you can look at it and see what, like, what did they change it to when it changed like names completely and everything changed to, look up the phone numbers, all of a sudden now it's a Google number, that's kind of like the red flags. Um, but if it's, they change some names around and it's addresses that they still have on their profile, it's, it'll fail them out for that, but it's not necessarily a reason to fail them for yourselves.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Are there any
Yeah.
particular alerts on Super Protect that anybody favors or looks for more?
I would personally say that I mean, just in general, the rating portion, right? It's very simplistic where there's 8 specific criteria that are highlighted in it. So, you know that there's going to be majority of carriers that are going to fall within the 7 to 8 just because there might be one or two things that get flagged in the system. But I would say overall, just the simplicity of the rating system. Um, I personally enjoy the fact that it shows if a carrier is blocklisted, just because there's many times that a brokerage may just block a specific carrier, but they won't necessarily leave a negative review. And
Mm,
so if that negative review is never left, you don't know if there was a bad relationship, bad transport, something transpired, but all of a sudden you see a carrier that's been blocklisted by several other people over the course of the last month. Right away, that's one of those big things that sends a flag in my head where it goes, all right, there's clearly something going on. And then as you start investigating, you start realizing, like Luke said, addresses got changed, you know, the billing address, the phone number, the main primary contact, and then you start assuming, all right, maybe this is an MC that had gotten sold off, right? Whatnot. And so that to me is probably one of the most beneficial alerts that comes in.
nice. Jack, Luke, anything different for you guys, or is it kind of the same for y'all?
I would say, it's pretty similar, but I think the marketplace activity is probably one of the things that's going to be that I see as a broker that's most important to me because it shows me what my colleagues in the space are doing. It shows that, hey, They were just blocklisted by, four separate brokers. They currently have out more requests than their company can potentially handle based on the number of drivers that they have available to take the loads along with their equipment. So that's something that is very interesting. And then just to pair it off what Luke was saying earlier, sometimes where I've had it where it showed me there was a change of address. And basically, when I went and looked at both addresses, it looked like, the owner operator moved from one part of Tampa to another, so that's obviously not a red flag. So, all of this information that you're getting, it's just another tool in the belt, but obviously it should always be taken with a grain of salt. And if you think that you can have good success with the carrier because they potentially fit the load profile that you're trying to get moved. Whereas I know for a fact that I've used a specific carrier, I'm not going to name them, over the last, let's say, 3 months or 2 months, and they've done 5 or 6 high priority loads for me, even though they only had 6 out of the 8 passed, and even though they were getting blocklisted by other brokers, I have had nothing but phenomenal success with them. It's funny because sometimes I'll joke with my other friends that are also brokers, and we'll talk about the same carrier, and we both have vastly different experiences based on either our customer profile or the team of dispatcher and driver that is coming from that specific company in that specific lane. These are all things that you can only learn with experience as well. So this is really just another extremely good tool to help you, build your business, grow your business, and protect yourself from, potentially losing, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars and losing your whole business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Speaking of the money savings, I think I was looking at data the other day about how much high-end luxury vehicles are targeted and like at what ratio compared to all the other vehicles. And like luxury vehicles meaning like maybe $75,000 worth or more. So I'm curious about, you mentioned another tool in your belt. So Super Protect is obviously a great tool in your belt. What other tools do you guys keep in your belt to match with Super Protect to really keep your businesses protected?
Um, I think if nobody minds, I'll go first here. But I think one of the main things that you try to do when you're shipping higher end vehicles, and I would venture to say that maybe nowadays 75 is probably not considered that high with today's auto market. I think we're looking more closer to like between 90 and 120, which can be an average depending if you're shipping for a Mercedes or BMW dealership, or even a Cadillac dealership. You're going to potentially have those high end vehicles all the time. I think one of the main things is to have the experience, and when you're shipping these higher end vehicles, is to really only use carriers that you have a history with in the past. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and take $135,000 Escalade and give it to either a brand new carrier or a carrier that I've never worked with before. I'd prefer to take money out of my own pocket to pay a little bit extra to get somebody that I know that can do the job, that has done the job for me in the past, versus taking someone new or somebody that I've never used before, which is really, I think, one of the biggest ways you can protect yourself. And having Super Protect allows me to continue to trust the carriers that I've used in the past because their information doesn't change. Their marketplace activity doesn't change. Usually, the carriers that are doing the right things will always show up as clean on the Super Protect system. And I know this because after I got access to it, I went ahead and I looked at, because I run a lot of the same lanes, I went ahead and looked at, the 10 or 15 carriers that I use on a weekly basis. And every single one of them that I thought was good and passed the checks, they all passed, So it was
Nice.
like,
Yeah.
and it was obvious. I knew they were going to pass because I've never had an issue with them other than maybe a late pickup or a late delivery or breakdown, which is just par for the course, in auto transport.
But also it's nice to have that like tiny bit of assurance of being like, oh, okay, yeah, like, whew, I
A-
can trust them. That's, yeah, I bet that's so nice.
Absolutely. It's just like, it's kind of like, okay, I knew they were good, but now I'm sure that they're not playing any games.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Luke, how about you?
And I think for the one thing is we don't trust it 100%. Not that, or like, we don't just stop as soon as they pass. We still do the same things that, we used to. We're still checking, we need a driver's license for the driver, trucks, dot numbers, that kind of thing. So it's not your one stop. But the other thing I thought of was like it'll tell you if anybody's new right out the gate. If it's under, I think, 6 months old or 12 months old. That's very easy. Like we just move right along. We're not using them. But But as Jack said, it was nice to see like the people that we did use all the time, as soon as you looked, they are staying, in the green. But I think that, I mean, another big thing is just knowing that those guys still, are operating correctly with, and you get those alerts if not.
Yep. Yep. Michael, how about you?
I mean, I'm going to echo the same as Luke and Jack. SuperProtect to me doesn't replace the carrier vetting system or process. It's a phenomenal tool to have into it. At the end of the day, all of our clients trust us with making sure that we're picking the best carriers to be able to transport these. That's why they work with us, right? If we were picking the bottom of the barrel, no one would be wanting to work with you. So we use it primarily for the efficiency aspect. Like I said, it saves on a lot of time for us because right off the bat, you know whether or not to invest that time to verify the insurances, look at the safer, look at all of that stuff. So it's just a phenomenal tool, but I don't think it necessarily replaces the system. But I think it makes the
Yep, exactly.
efficiency very high.
And we talked about this on a separate call, and it came up on the Super Moves webinar as well, where a broker mentioned having cybersecurity insurance. And Jack, I know you mentioned you have it. Can you talk a little bit more
Yes.
about what drove you to get it? I know we talked about phishing being an attempt, and Dave's presentation about how theft can happen. So I'm curious about your experience with cybersecurity insurance.
Right. So, the way that it was explained to me by my insurance broker, which is that it's basically made the insurance that I carry. Well, here, let's go back a little bit. I will admit I did have a vehicle stolen, um, and it was kind of one of those situations where I couldn't get the load covered, and everything seemed okay. And I went online and I went on Safer, and I pulled the insurance, and I called the insurance company, and and the company had a decent track record and a history. And then the next thing you know, the vehicle is picked up and there was no pictures uploaded on Super Dispatch. And, they're still in communication with me for like the 5 or 6 days that it's supposed to be in transport. And then boom, they just disappear. So, having been through that experience where I then had to pay my customer back out of my own pocket because there was no insurance that was going to cover it, and having that loss, it started to make me look into and say, hey, what can I do to, number one, protect myself so that I could, as a company, I could stay in business, but also that I could go to my customers who are shipping, a lot of higher end vehicles and say, hey, I have an insurance policy now because I know that fraud is such a big thing in the industry where it's not even just fraud. It was more of a cybersecurity slash social engineering where I am insured, where if a scammer goes ahead and creates a profile of a carrier or steals a good carrier's profile, and then a vehicle goes missing by me, my insurance will cover it. And it's not cheap. It was a big investment. I think I had done the math and it added probably between $5 and $7 per vehicle that I ship every year, which may not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but anybody that works in the industry knows that a lot of times we're working on very, very thin margins. And to add on top of all the other costs that we have, that extra $5 or $7, that could be the difference between being competitive, versus, over, 50 or 60 loads versus not, and actually being able to get jobs because everybody's very price conscious. But having had that experience of this type of a social engineering and fraud, it pushed me to go and find this type of insurance. And it wasn't easy to find either. It took my insurance broker it took me three separate brokers until one actually was able to find an insurance carrier that was willing to even write a policy for what I needed. And then after the first year, after having no claims, the cost of the policy doubled. The actual cost of the actual policy and the deductible, they both doubled. And it was very interesting. They basically said, hey, we reassessed the risk. And in the last year, it's gotten, I know nothing's happened to you, but it's gotten so bad that this is just where we're at. And, but I know that my customers, when they come to me, they understand that, hey, I might be paying a little bit of extra, but I understand that if something happens to my vehicle, that I'm going to be taken care of by this company because they're either going to cover it themselves or they have insurance that will make sure that I'm still going to not get screwed and left holding the bag. Because I know that there are a lot of other stories in auto transport where a lot of these fly by night brokerages come in and vehicles are getting all over the place, and now people are out tens of thousands of dollars or vehicles are stolen, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's nobody to go back to say, hey, they just shut down and they disappear, and then you're just stuck. So that was something that pushed me to go ahead and look for this, extra insurance that I currently carry.
Yeah, that's super smart. Michael and Luke, do y'all have anything extra you do similar to cybersecurity insurance?
No, I mean I have a contingent cargo insurance as well that covers us. So, if there's a situation where the actual carrier has a lapse in coverage or there's anything that transpires with that, God forbid they break a vehicle, damage a vehicle, falls off the trailer, whatever the situation is, we're still covered. So it prevents our company from having to necessarily incur the cost of, let's say a $100,000 vehicle that got damaged, right? So don't have any cybersecurity, right? We use from just like a security standpoint, we do use VPNs, right, just to protect our information, but we don't actually have a cybersecurity. I was actually going to reach out to my agent and see if that's something that we could apply, and also see if that's something that they could even get their hands on, just because realistically, in this world nowadays in transportation, there's countless phishing emails that come out. I know my accounting team gets fraudulent emails all day, every day, saying that, a carrier is requesting payment to this email now. So those things happen on a daily basis. And, protecting yourself, it's pretty much the only thing you can do, right? Making sure that you have the right systems in place and then making sure you have the right insurances, because it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's more of a matter of when it's going to happen. And failure to prepare is preparing to fail. So stay prepared and you don't have to worry about it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Luke, how about you?
Yeah, we're pretty much the same as Michael. But after speaking with Jack last week, it was kind of like got our minds thinking, what can we, can we find that coverage as well? And I mean, I know it's not going to be cheap, like Jack said, but at the end of the day, I think if you go to customers and say, hey, we now have this coverage, you might see a small increase in rates. I don't think anybody's going to care. They're just going to be ecstatic that they have that peace of mind now, that there's coverage, and it's not on them or the dealership or the customer or what what have you. And honestly, like the more people that get the coverage, that's more for the carriers to have policies written to cover the losses. There's Jack's rates doubled because there's so few policies out there, probably.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing your experience. We have a ton of questions coming in the Q&A, so we're going to jump to the Q&A. But first, and I have seen this question already asked, and we knew it was going to be asked, Joanna is going to talk to us about the actual pricing of SuperProtect.
Yeah, so about pricing, there are already some questions about it, as Casey mentioned. So on SuperProtect, the pricing works by tiers. So you will pay for the carriers monitored that you have on your network. A monitored carrier means every carrier that accepted or delivered a load for you. If that carrier delivered a lot of loads for you, it will only be counted once per billing cycle. If you exceed the monitored carriers for the current year you are in, you will be able to pay overages if you like, $1.50 for additional carrier. We believe this pricing is scalable because you can scale up and down based on your business needs, pretty much.
Awesome. All right, let's hop in the Q&A. Someone's asking, do you mind sharing which carrier offers the cybersecurity insurance? I don't know if you want to share that or not, or maybe it's something that you can suggest I talk to their broker about.
So this might have to be something for later. I'd be happy to give out the broker that I go through his information, because I don't think you'd be able to get to that insurance carrier anyways if I gave it out. But if you want, you just send me an email and I'll send over my broker's information, and we could kind of move in that direction if anybody's looking to talk to somebody who kind of explain to them how it works and what the cost of that coverage would actually be.
You need to reach out to them first and see if you can get some kind of like 10% referral fee from
Yeah.
that, because everybody, there's a lot of questions being like, who's Jack's guy? I need insurance.
He's about to get a lot of business.
I know you need some kind of
Yeah.
referral code. You're like
I'll make Jack's
an
rate
auto
down.
transport fraud influencer for insurance.
Like I just, you know
And
what, yeah, just for, if you don't mind, yeah, it was just so important to me because like Michael said, it's not a question of if, it's more of a question of when, because over time, and especially now that we're coming to the age of I think the idea, if anybody thinks that it's not, that it can't happen to them, they are wrong, because I deal with a lot of friends in the auto world, and I constantly get calls from dealers and leasing brokers, and they're always calling me and asking me, hey, is this carrier good? Is this one not good? Like, what can I do? And it's like, hey, I know people who've had way too many close calls where if you're not really on top of it, something is bound to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey Casey,
Joanna,
there's a
yeah.
really interesting question I think we should cover. There's someone asked about providing information in real time. I think Michael, you mentioned that. I think that's one thing that I want to make sure we touch on because it's I think a very much a differentiating feature for Super Protect versus a lot of other mechanisms that people use. And I like to describe it as traditionally people use information that's like airplane level. They're flying at 30,000 feet and like looking down and trying to see what's going on, and it takes a little bit of time for to understand what's happening on the ground versus the way Super Protect works is like we're on the ground watching what's happening and making those real-time decisions and then surfacing that for folks to take a look at. And I think as Michael, Jack, and Luke covered, it's not necessarily us saying definitively yes or no. We're not the ones to tell you how to who to work with. We're just the ones to provide you with that information to help make better decisions and save you time to make the best choices possible for your business given what you need to do with a given load.
Yeah, yeah, great point. Another great question is, can we choose which carriers we monitor?
So once loads are accepted or delivered, they will be automatically added to your monitored list. However, you can decide to remove them after they deliver the load for you. And also you can monitor carriers manually if you'd like to receive updates on the risk level for those carriers.
Great. And speaking of carriers, someone's asking if there will be any additional safeguards in our pipeline to help prevent good carriers from falling victim to different scams like phishing scams or identity theft. Dave or
Yeah, I mean, I
Joanna?
think I'll take that one. Yeah, so yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. Like we very much view this as like an ongoing battle that we're in with all of you. We're never, we're Super Protect is obviously a newer functionality, but we never stop working on this from a technology standpoint. That what Joanna and her team are building, what the carrier teams are building to protect our carriers as well, and we're definitely have some work that's already has happened and is happening to help protect everybody. Obvious reasons I'm not going to share the specifics because we don't want bad actors to know what we're doing specifically to protect folks. The other thing too is we have a really awesome and dedicated group of internal people that do investigate situations, when unfortunately accounts get compromised, how to help folks remedy those problems, resecure their account. And then also, obviously, if we find bad actors on, that we definitively know are doing bad things, like we can obviously take care of that as well. So we have an internal team that looks into that every day, all the time. As soon as we see a report that comes in from anybody within Super Dispatch, the folks are on that. So that's a combination of people as well as like automation and stuff like that that we use to detect those problems.
Great. We have a great question. Someone's trying to compare themselves to the three of you guys to identify if Super Protect would be as valuable from them. So they're asking if you think that this is a great product if you're a broker or shipper on a larger scale or a smaller scale in regards to the number of cars you move per year.
I mean, I'll take this, but I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter if you're shipping one car a month or 1,000 cars a month. It's you'll pay less if you're only shipping one because you're only having to deal with one carrier. So it's 20. I mean, it is a very small price to pay.
I'll add on to that. I think at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, any customer that you're working with, right? They're working with you because they trust that you're picking the right people to go ahead and move that vehicle for them. Any tool that you could have to strengthen that vetting process and make you better at your job is a tool that you should 100% have in the belt. No questions asked. So it doesn't matter if you're moving one or 10,000 a month, doesn't make a difference. Have it as a tool.
Great. Luke, do you have anything to add or you feel the same as they do?
No, same idea. It doesn't really, I mean, you ship one car, you get one car stolen. I mean, it doesn't, you have the same risk, and with the different
Solid point.
tiers, it's, the cost isn't significant really. So.
Nice. Yeah. Jonah, someone's wanting to know if Super Protect will flag address and phone number changes, or is it up to the brokers to flag this?
It will flag phone number changes and email changes. You'll see that as we showed on the demo, so you'll see the changes. And also will flag changes on FMCSA side as well. So if address changes on the FMCSA, we'll flag that as well.
Yeah, and
And then
Casey,
for
I saw a question too related to that was saying that there's different phone numbers that people use at these companies because it's obviously not just one person, which is I agree is a totally normal thing. But I think the main point, what I was covering earlier is if the phone number is not familiar, you should look at the official phone number and use that as a way to verify that the person that is trying to reach out to you is really a person at that company versus some random person that's trying to impersonate them. I think that's the main thing I would take away there is you don't just trust it that's saying that who they are. Like go and use the official information to verify that, hey, is this actually like this person at your company and is it okay to work with them?
Great.
Just to add, to make sure I was clear, we'll flag phone contact changes on FMCSA side and also on Super Dispatch side as well. So both.
Perfect. And is there a way to keep any carriers who fail from making load requests?
Not yet. We don't have that yet.
Nice. What threshold of a Super Protect rating will a carrier drop for Super Dispatch to suspend that carrier's account? Are we able to share any information on that?
Dave, I don't know if you want to take that
Yeah,
one.
like I wouldn't say there's like so again, Super Protect is a tool, right, to give folks information to make decisions. Whether if someone's a bad actor and doing bad things, like we have our own internal mechanisms that some of which are based on similar things you can imagine that we use in Super Protect, but we have our own team and internal ways of tracking that, and then we'll take care of it accordingly. So just I think of Super Protect as a tool to provide information to shippers and brokers to make better decisions on who they're working with, given whatever criteria are important to you. But from a kicking people off, like there's other mechanisms with you can help support by like reporting them if you think you've got a vehicle stolen or if there's double brokering and things like that. But then we have a dedicated team of folks that like investigate and then make those decisions whether or not they should stay on the Super Dispatch network.
Cool. We have time for one more question, so I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll share some more information after. So don't jump too quickly because we'll share with you how to get Super Protect. But this is for the whole room. Does anybody have any tips on how to make it easier to verify insurance?
Yeah. Um, I mean, first and foremost is we only accept insurance if it's actually sent from the insurance provider. So if they send it from a dispatch email or a personal email, that doesn't fly at all, right? It has to be sent through the actual insurance company. And then depending on the load, depending on the status of it, will sometimes even call and verify that the truck, trailer, all that information is on the insurance. And then we'll also call the insurance company and verify that we're actually put down as a certificate holder. So, because, you know, God forbid something happens and then it turns out that, you were never actually placed on a certificate holder. It doesn't make it impossible, but it does just add a couple extra steps to the process. So, play it safe, get it done right the first time, and you're not going to have to worry about it.
Great. Jack, do you just need to add? It looked like you're about to say something.
Um, I think this is a big problem because there are so many different insurance providers. I think this is like like a completely side topic, but verifying insurance can become extremely difficult. And I think it's something that really needs to be worked on next because it's, it doesn't understand that, accepting the load and then calling the insurance because there could be you know, fake insurance made up, fake COIs made up. You could call the insurance. The phone number on there is going to somebody that you don't even know who it is. They could be verifying all the information. Like it's really, I think the insurance is one of the more difficult things to potentially verify. And then, you're dealing with insurance when drivers are either leased on or they're company drivers. So, the carrier is only showing one truck, but really they have 30 trucks that are leased on. It's just, it's insurance is another big problem. So that's really all I have to add to that.
Logistics.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing and answering those questions. For anybody who has questions we didn't get to, what I'm going to do is after this call, we will be sending out a recording of this video as well as any unanswered questions with answers from anyone from the group. But quite a few asked how to get Super Protect, so I'm excited to share that with you guys for now. You can go to superdispatch.com/superprotect and click Get SuperProtect, and that will get you routed to get access to it. You can also use the calendar link in the emails from your account executive to book time with them, and then they'll help get you started and enable SuperProtect for you if you're already a customer, or give you a full demo of SuperDispatch if you're not a SuperDispatch customer yet, and then get access to SuperProtect. And then, as always, you can send an email to sales@superdispatch.com or reply to any of the emails I've sent to you guys promoting this webinar or reminding of the webinar. We have access to that inbox. So if you just reply to any of those emails, we can also get you going in the right direction. But that's how you can get SuperProtect or talk to somebody to get it enabled in the product if you're already a customer. And with that, that's our webinar for today. I want to thank Jack, Michael, and Luke for taking the time and sharing their experience with SuperProtect and in auto transport in general. And thank you to Dave and Joanna for sharing SuperProtect with us. So thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great day. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a great day. Bye.